एंड में मुझे ये एंड लाइव वीडियो करना है जब खत्म हो जाएगा.
Nothing.
खत्म होने के बाद
You just do the control T. Again, this poster will come. In the meantime, I will end it.
ठीक है. कंट्रोल टी से स्टार्ट करना, कंट्रोल टी से बंद करना.
Students have started.
ये फेसबुक होगा.
So यहाँ पे थोड़े और students join कर लेंगे. In the meantime, you can talk if you want to talk anything. This is everything will be next. Testing के लिए you can talk something so that you can decide whether it is coming.
Understanding self is a topic which is taken from course BESL 124, Understanding the Self and Yoga. Dear learners, there are 4 EPC courses, 2 EPC courses in the first year, BESL 121 and BESL 122. These are the 2 courses in first year of B.Ed. Similarly, we have 2 EPC courses in the second year of B.Ed. Now, in this session, we are taking up the 4th EPC course, that is BESL 124, Understanding the Self and Yoga. I understand that before coming for this workshop session, you must have gone through the material of the EPC course. In BESL 124, there are 2 blocks. First block focuses on the units related to understanding self, social self, and revisiting childhood experiences. Whereas the second block of this course, the major emphasis is on yoga. A session on yoga, that means stress relieving techniques and use of yoga. This session has already been taken on 6th of November. So, learners, in this session, we shall be discussing the content as well as the workshop activity related to understanding self. Shall we start?
2 minutes now. 10:30. Good morning, learners. Today, in this first session of day 10, we have with us Professor Bharti Dogra from School of Education, IGNOU. And Madam will take both the sessions, this session and the second session at 11:45. In first session, she will talk about the understanding self. So, now I request Professor Bharti Dogra to start her session. Then you start. When this screen appears here, then you can start.
Dear learners, I welcome you to this workshop session on understanding self. There are 4 EPC courses in B.Ed program. 2 EPC courses BESL 121 and BESL 122 are included in the first year of B.Ed program, and there are 2 EPC courses BESL 123 and BESL 124 in the second year of B.Ed program. Now these EPC courses are designed to enhance professional capacities of student teachers. In B.Ed second year, there are these 2 EPC courses, Drama and Art in Education, that is BESL 123, and Understanding the Self in Yoga, that is BESL 124. Today in the first session, I shall be discussing content as well as workshop activity from EPC 4, that is Understanding the Self and Yoga. Later in the second half, I shall be discussing content as well as workshop activity from EPC 3, that is Drama and Art in Education. I am Dr. Bharti Dogra, who is coordinating these 4 EPC courses. Now let us discuss in this session Understanding Self. This topic is taken from Unit 1 of Block 1 of course BESL 124. Understanding Self. In this session, we shall be discussing development of self, Erickson's stage theory, 4 identity statuses in James Marcia's theory, activity on understanding self. Now, the self. Whenever we talk about the self, we are actually talking about the self-concept, self-esteem, self-knowledge, and the social self. Now we will be discussing these concepts in detail in this session. Now, understanding the self. How can we understand ourselves? We can understand ourselves if we understand others. Without understanding others, it is not possible to understand ourselves. Now, there is a very interesting correlation between self-awareness and the perceptions of empathy, as many believe that this is actually the first step towards understanding yourself, then understanding people around you. Now, it is important to be in touch with your own feelings in order to understand others. You cannot understand others unless and until you understand yourself. Then, understanding the self is also needed for effective communication and engagement with others, including students. Next, we will be discussing development of self. What is development of self? Now, self and identity. I shall be discussing identity formation in detail in this session. Now, many times, self and identity are seen as overlapping terms and are frequently used interchangeably. Now, the way we define ourselves is based on our perception of ourselves as well as how we think others they perceive us. This forms our self-concept. Self-concept is generally thought of as our individual perceptions of the behavior, abilities, and unique characteristics. That is a mental picture of what we are capable of doing. See, I might think that I am a good person, I am helpful to others, I am kind to others, I am a good singer, I am a hard worker. So, this is my perception about myself. Now, self esteem is another related concept. Self concept we have already discussed. Then, when talking about the self esteem is another related concept. Now, self esteem refers to the evaluation of one's worth by oneself. Now, if one person, views himself or herself as worthy and capable, then in that case, the person will have a positive self esteem. A negative self esteem would develop through constant undervaluing of one's potentials and capabilities. Again, we find that how other people perceive us, this has an important role to play in building positive self esteem. Here, the Rogers work is worth mentioning because the development of self highlights the importance of primary caregivers in providing unconditional support. It is the role of the caregivers which plays a very important role. Positive self-regard, positive uh, positive self-esteem that has a relationship with the the care provided by the parents, by others. Now, it means providing feelings of acceptance and respect without the dependence on fulfillment of defined conditions. We all are aware that family members, teachers, and society at large put conditions on children. Now, how do we become aware of these defined conditions right from childhood days? Whenever certain behaviors are appreciated, you show a behavior and you get the acceptance, the approval from your parents or from your teachers, then automatically you understand that this behavior is socially accepted or socially approved. And a child who does not follow the conventional norms is always told to change his behavior as it does not fit into the accepted categories of behaviors. So it is a very common observation that any experimentation, because if you experiment with your dresses, or if you experiment with your hairstyle, or if you experiment with your lifestyles, and if these new lifestyle or new hairstyles or if your new dresses, they are not accepted by others, so in that case you get a message that these behaviors, these dresses, this new hairstyle is not socially accepted. So that message you receive immediately from others. So in this manner, whenever we show any behavior, or whenever we make any choice, maybe regarding our dresses, our clothes, immediately we get a message that whether these choices are approved by others or not. So depending upon the feedback or the message which we receive from others, we get a clear idea that these behaviors need to be changed if these are to be accepted or approved by others. So we find that the conditions of worth are ascribed to children. That means conditions of worth are given to children. So when children they are exposed to such conditions of worth or acceptance, for a very long time, then they start judging themselves on the same standards. That means it leads to the creation of conditions of positive self-regard, and they start valuing themselves only when these conditions of worth are met. And we tend to acquire later on also these behaviors and qualities which are liked or approved or appreciated by others around us. Now, these conditions could be that being good in studies, being a good student, wearing certain types of clothes, behaving in certain ways. But many times what happens that these socially accepted or socially approved behaviors may not match with what we truly want. So then comes the problem. That means these social acceptance of behaviors, that gives us a message that we need to behave in this particular manner. But that may not be your true self. Now, as you all are aware that movies, they reflect the real dynamics of the society. And you must have seen the movie Three Idiots, which was released in 2009. Now, can you recall the character of Farhan Qureshi, Aslam Khan in Rang De Basanti, or young brothers Ishan and Yohan Avasthi in Tare Zameen Par? Now, all these characters, they highlight a fact that family and society, it places importance on certain kinds of behaviors and life choices. So, what happens as a result of this? We are not able to discover who we truly are. Now, in reality, we can be successful by learning to work differently. Now, here I would like to mention the book Eat That Frog. It was written by Brian Tracy in 2001. Now, this book stresses that you can be more successful by learning to work differently. Now, the author Brian Tracy, he further shares his own experiences in this book. He says that being from a very unsuccessful family, I thought that people who are doing better than me are actually better than me. But later on, the author realized that people who are doing better than me, they are better because they are doing their things differently. So everyone has the potential to work towards personal growth. Now, Erickson's stage theory, learners. Now, in the next few slides, I shall be discussing with you the Erickson's stage theory. Now, what is Erickson's stage theory? Now, if you look at this slide, you will find that according to Erickson, personality develops in a predetermined order through 8 stages of psychosocial development. You can see stage 1, stage 2, 3, 4, stage 5 is highlighted here, stage 6, 7 and 8. So we find that there are 8 stages of psychosocial development right from the infancy to adulthood. Now, Erickson's theory describes the impact of social experience across the whole lifespan. Erickson was interested in knowing how social interaction and relationship played a role in the development and growth of human beings. Each stage, right from stage 1 to stage 8, it builds on the preceding stages and paves the way for following the periods of development. In each stage, Erickson believed that people experience a conflict that serves as a turning point in development. Now, what kind of conflict? Can you see in the stage 1, there is a conflict between trust versus mistrust? In the stage 2, there is a conflict between autonomy versus shame. In stage 3, there is a conflict between initiative versus guilt. Stage 4, industry versus inferiority. So, similarly, in all the stages, there is a conflict. And this conflict, like in the stage 5, this conflict between identity versus confusion. Now, this conflict serves as a turning point in development. Now, according to Erickson, these conflicts are centered on either developing psychological quality or failing to develop that quality. So either the trust will develop or trust will not develop, as you can see in the stage 1. Now, if people successfully deal with the conflict, they emerge from the stage with psychological strengths that will serve them well for the rest of their lives. If they fail to deal effectively with these conflicts, they may not develop the essential skills needed for a strong relationship or strong sense of self. Now you can see that in stage 1, there is a conflict between trust and mistrust. And what is the outcome? The outcome is hope. In stage 2, there is a conflict between autonomy versus shame, and the outcome is will. Stage 3, there is a conflict between initiative versus guilt, and the outcome is the purpose. Stage 4, there is a conflict between industry versus inferiority, and the outcome is confidence. Stage 5, which is highlighted in this slide, we find a conflict between identity versus confusion, and the outcome is fidelity. Stage 6, the conflict between intimacy versus isolation, and the outcome is love. Stage 7, the conflict between generativity versus self absorption, stagnation, and the outcome is care. And in the stage 8, there is a conflict between integrity versus despair, and the outcome is the wisdom. Now let us move to the next slide, where we will be discussing the identity formation during adolescence. Now, how does the identity formation takes place during adolescence? During adolescence, in the last slide, we have discussed the 8 stages of psychosocial development, and I highlighted the 5th stage, during which there is a conflict between the identity versus confusion. So this 5th stage is very, very significant in Erickson's theory. Why is it so significant? Because this plays a very important role in developing a sense of personal identity, which will continue to influence behavior and development for the rest of a person's life. Now, adolescents, they need to develop a sense of self and personal identity. Children explore their independence and develop a sense of self. Now, those who receive proper encouragement and reinforcement through personal exploration will emerge from this stage with a strong sense of self and feelings of independence and control. And those who remain unsure of their feelings and desires will feel insecure and confused about themselves and the future. So Erickson claimed that the struggle between identity and role confusion that typified the adolescent stage of development, and it is during adolescence we face a sense of moratorium and attempt to develop our sense of identity. Now, what is moratorium? Moratorium means you explore the different choices. In order to form your identity, first of all, you need to explore the different alternatives which are available, the different options which are available, the different choices which are available, which suit your skills and which suit your potential, which suit your talents. So this process of exploration of different choices, this is known as moratorium, and this is very important for development of the identity. Then generally, the identity concept, it focuses on the integration of a number of important elements such as capacities, opportunities, ideals and identifications into a viable self-definition. During the process of identity formation, you come to know your strengths, your weaknesses, your capabilities, and all these elements, they are integrated into a viable self-definition. Now, adolescent identity development. Now, adolescent identity development is very important. The development of a strong and stable sense of self is required, and it must take place during the adolescent period. Although identity development occurs through one's lifetime, adolescence is the first time that individuals begin to think about how our identity may affect our lives. During adolescence, we are much more self-conscious about our changing identities than at any other stage in our lives. Now, when we talk about identity, now in this image, you can see that race, persona, humanity, age, gender. So all these aspects, they play an important role. Now, adolescent identity development. Identity is generally concerned with the question, who are you? And what does it mean to be who you are? Identity relates to our basic values that dictate the choices we make. For example, the choices we make regarding relationship, the choices we make regarding career, and these choices reflect who we are and what we value. For example, we can assume that a college professor values education and helps students. So whichever career you choose, that conveys a lot about your choices, that conveys a lot about your values. Now, the next question arises, do we create our own identities? No, we do not create our own identities. Why? Because some individuals simply internalize the values of their parents. It's a very simple option. My father is a doctor, so I would also like to be a doctor. Simply, I don't have to explore anything, and it's very easy for me to follow the same occupation. Now, this could be, the choice which I make. This could be influenced by the appearance. It could be influenced by the materialism. It could also be influenced by the power. But very, very sad, because these values may not be, these values, which I choose, the choices which I make, they may not be aligned with one's authentic self. And in this manner, if I go for such choices, I may not have a very fulfilled life. So such choices, such career choices, such relationship choices may lead to unfulfillment in my life. So that is why it is very, very important that whenever we are making a choices, they must be aligned with our authentic self. So people who make such choices, show such values, which are in alignment with their true self, authentic self, they have a very fulfilled life. And lack of a coherent sense of identity will ultimately lead to uncertainty what one wants to do in life. A person may have multiple identities. It is very true. I may be a mother. I am also a daughter. I am a teacher. I am a friend also. So a person may have multiple identities. And each position, each identity has certain expectations. Now, as a mother, something is expected of me. As a friend, there are certain expectations. As a daughter, Again, I have certain expectation. Now, what happens that each position has its own expectations, and these expectations are internalized as identity. A major task of self-development is a differentiation of multiple selves as a function of social context. For example, self with mother, self with father, self with close friends, with an awareness of potential contradictions. Because when I am when I am at home, when I am with my family members, then I am not formal. Whereas when I am at a workplace, I am expected to be formal. I cannot share each and everything. So there are certain potential contradictions. Now, psychologists assume that identity formation is a matter of finding oneself by matching one's talents, skills, potential with available social roles. Now, what constitutes a true self? The ultimate goal is to develop and nurture those choices that are consistent with true self. Three goals are required for identity formation. First of all, discovering and developing one's personal potential. What you love to do. Do you love to sing? Do you love to dance? Do you love to paint? So, you need to discover yourself first. Once you have discovered yourself, then you need to develop your own potential. So this can be done by trial and error. But development of skills and talents require time. It also requires effort and also the willingness to face frustration. Then the second step is choosing one's purpose in life, choosing what we seek to accomplish. Now, these objectives or purpose in life must be compatible with the talents or the skills or the authentic self of the person. Now, the third step is person is required to find opportunities to implement the potential and purpose. Now, societies which are open, they allow for role mobility and role flexibility to implement identity related choices. But this is not the case in societies which are closed and which are rigid and which are structured. Identity is never final and it continues to develop throughout the life of the person. Now, next, learners, I would like to discuss four identity statuses in James Marcia's theory. As you can see, there are four identity statuses. First is identity foreclosure. Second, identity diffusion. Third, psychosocial moratorium. And fourth is identity achievement. So we start with identity foreclosure. That what is identity foreclosure, and I will be discussing few examples also. Now we come to the identity foreclosure. What is identity foreclosure? Identity foreclosure means that adolescents, they develop their identity without exploring the different alternatives or without exploring the different choices. See, before arriving at some choice which you like the most, which is as per your potential, you have to try different options or alternatives available. You may not like the first alternative, you may not like the second alternative, and maybe after trying a number of options, you may find that yes, this time, after trial and error many times, now this time I feel that this suits my potential. This is what suits me, and I have the potential for this. I have the required skills for this particular career. Let's take the career choice. But in the case of the identity foreclosure, we find that such exploration is never done. And the students, or the adolescents, which I'm talking about in this particular case, they arrive at their identity without the exploration, without even finding out that what are the various options available. So this is known as the identity foreclosure, and adolescents, they differ in the pace with which they establish an identity. Some may establish an identity earlier than the others, and some may formulate a limited identity too early in order to avoid further confusion, because there is a conflict. I told you that during adolescence there is a conflict between identity and confusion, so they don't want further confusion and they formulate a limited identity, and that too very early and without exploring the different alternatives which are available to them. Now, according to Erickson, such an early identity formation is called identity foreclosure and is usually due to the parental ascription. Now, identity foreclosure is a stage of self-identity discovery in which an individual has an identity but has not explored other options or ideas. This is what I discussed in the previous slide. Could you please give me some examples of identity foreclosure? Now, students, I would like to know from you that uh, can you cite some examples of identity foreclosure, that what happens? Have you formed your identity through proper exploration of the different choices, different alternatives? Could you please give me some options or some examples where identity foreclosure takes place? Now, Raja Khan is writing that identity foreclosure is a stage of self-identity discovery in which an individual has an identity but has not explored other options or ideas, most common in young adolescents. And in this stage, the individual, so you're writing the answers, and yes, you have an idea what is identity foreclosure. Now, I will be discussing with you some specific examples. Now, I take a case of a 13-year-old boy who says that he is a member of the political party their parents support. So, a boy who's 13-year-old and who has no idea about the different political parties and their agendas, their objectives, and their contributions, without exploring the different political parties, their contributions, their agendas. This boy, says that he is a member of a particular political party. Let's say that political party A. Why? What is the reason for opting for the membership of this political party? Because my parents support this political party, so I will also support the same political party. Now, this is a case of identity foreclosure because you have not explored the agendas of other political parties, their contributions, what have they done over a period of time. So, without exploring all these options, because you are choosing a political party as your parents are also supporting the same party. So this is a clear cut case of the identity foreclosure. Now I am moving to the second example. I would like to give you some examples to make these concepts, you have, so that you should have a clarity about these four statuses. Now Rekha, who's 17-year-old, she is applying to the same college that her mother and grandmother both attended, and she has decided to also major in elementary education. Now let us discuss this second example. Rekha really has not thought about whether or not she wants to go to the college or what other college she might like to attend. Okay? Nor has she considered any other career option besides being an elementary school teacher. When somebody asked her that why is she going to this particular college and why has she opted for the elementary education, she, how she replied, very funny. She said that all the women in my family, they became elementary school teachers for a few years, and after working for a few years, they stayed home with their own children. Now, my mother and grandmother, they were fine with this decision and they had a happy life. So it seems good enough for me also. Now, see, in the second case, again, Rekha has not, first of all, while opting for a particular college, she is opting for the same college which her mother and grandmother both attended. So she has not explored that what are the different types of colleges or whether she wants to attend college or not. Then next decision that I have to become an elementary education teacher, and reason being that both my mother and grandmother, they attended it for a few years and then they looked after their children. So again, not exploring the different alternatives or choices available, just going for the same decision which was taken by the mother and grandmother. So this is again a clear-cut case of identity foreclosure. I hope you all are understanding. I am giving you examples for further clarity. Now I am moving to the second status, that is identity diffusion. Identity diffusion means not making a commitment to particular life choices and not exploring any alternatives. यहाँ पे आप किसी भी choice को, alternative को या किसी भी option को explore ही नहीं करते, and that is why this is known as identity diffusion. Again, learners, I would like to give you some examples here so that you can understand what is identity diffusion. Now I take example 1. The teacher of class 6th, she asks students to think of their goals in life. Now she listens to their responses and she finds that some students have clarity regarding their career goals. Some want to travel, some want to write a book, but one student, Amit, the student has a difficult time coming up with goals because he never thought about the question before that I have to think about my career, about career goals. So, what do I want to do? So, this is a clear cut case of identity diffusion. I take another example. Now, while listening to her teacher in class 8th, teacher was explaining gender roles. A student X realizes that she does not really know what roles men and women should play in a household and that she has never given any thought to this question. So again, it is a clear-cut case of identity diffusion. I take another example. Teacher in class 9th gives a project about the hobbies that define them. Some students enjoy sketching, painting, singing, traveling, or some other hobby. A girl, when thinks about it, feels that she has never really enjoyed sports, played any instrument, or developed any other type of hobby. So, she has a difficult time expressing how to define herself because the task was given that tell us about your hobbies that define you. So when she has never, pursued any hobby, so she was unable to understand that what are the hobbies which define her. So again, a clear-cut case of identity diffusion. Now you can see here, you know, uh, different people, they express themselves differently. You can dance, you can click pictures, you love to paint, you love to create. You love to participate in a nukkad natak. You love to sketch. You love to bake. So there are different hobbies. There are different ways in which we express ourselves. That is what define us. Now, learners, I am moving to the third status, which is psychosocial moratorium. Now, what is psychosocial moratorium? Psychosocial moratorium means exploring different options, different choices, different alternatives available in personal life, in the professional life, and before making any commitment to a particular identity. Because here, you are aware that what is your potential, what are the different types of choices available, and you match the two. But you can arrive at the final identity, or you can make a final commitment when you explore the different alternatives. Then only it is possible to commit to a particular identity. Now, psychosocial moratorium, let us know more about this status. It is a state in which an adolescent is in crisis. It is not diffusion. I'm not talking about the identity diffusion. Identity diffusion means when you don't make, you don't commit to any choice, when you don't commit to any alternative. So crisis is different from the diffusion. Psychosocial moratorium is a status in which an adolescent is in crisis but has not yet defined his commitment or has defined it in a very vague way. For example, an individual who changes his subject again and again in a college. You go for one option, then you go for the second option, then again you go for the third option, and you are not able to decide that which discipline I am interested in, which discipline I would like to pursue throughout my life. So you are opting for different options. So this is a case of psychosocial moratorium. Now, an identity moratorium is one step in the process of finding a sense of self. Before you find yourself, before you discover yourself, before you arrive at the true self, identity moratorium is one such step which leads to the finding of true self. So it is a period. So what is done during identity moratorium? You are actively searching for different types of occupations. You are also finding out the different religions. You are finding out the different ethnic identities or another form of identity to determine who they really are. So it's an identity crisis, and identity crisis is a part of the quest of adolescents to find themselves. So identity crisis ultimately leads to the discovery or finding a true sense of self. Psychosocial moratorium is an interesting, very exciting, and potentially dangerous time for an adolescent that often leads to conflict with the parents or other authority figures. Because as I have already discussed with you in the beginning of the session, because there are certain behaviors, certain maybe careers also, which are socially approved. And a child or an adolescent is given positive regard or accepted by the parents, provided those behaviors are also, provided the adolescent also behaves in that particular manner, or the adolescent also accepts those socially accepted careers. So in case, the adolescent makes a choice, such choice of career or such choice of a relationship, which may not go with the which may not go with the expectations of the parents or expectations of other authority figures. So you can very well understand this leads to a conflict, and the adolescent, he may or may not know the correct ways to resolve these conflicts, because there are certain ways in which the conflicts can be resolved, and without having you can make your parents understand that I am interested in these options, in these career choices, and the conflict can be resolved. Therefore, it's a very, very, interesting phase. It's a very potentially dangerous time, and it leads to many types of conflicts. Then adolescents, they need to be free to explore their identities. So what should be the role of the parents? If they want their children to explore the different choices, if they want their children to arrive at their true self, so this freedom should be given to them to explore their identities along with the guidance and the support. This is required for a safe passing of psychosocial moratorium. Now I am moving to the final stage. This is our destination, that identity must be achieved by this time. Commitment to a sense of self, sense of personal and professional identity. After exploring different types of choices during the previous status, that is psychosocial moratorium, this is known as identity achievement, and it simply refers to having found one's true sense of self. When you actually find, you are able to arrive at your own true sense of self. These adolescents who achieve their true self, they are confident, they are positive, and they chose the right values and beliefs. Now, before moving to the activity on understanding self, learners, I would like to discuss with you some examples from the movies. As I have already pointed out, that the drama, whether it is drama, whether it is a movie, you know, they actually reflect the dynamics of the society. The issues which are discussed, these issues are taken from the society. So we find that issues, how they are portrayed in the movies as well as in the drama also, they are, they exist in the same manner in the Indian society also. So I would like to discuss here few movies which are related to the issues of adolescence, plus the four statuses which I have discussed: the foreclosure, the identity diffusion, the psychosocial moratorium, and identity achievement. The first, I'll take the movie Rang De Basanti. You must have seen this movie. Now, as far as the purpose in life is concerned, if you see the main characters like Sukhi, Aslam, Karan, and DJ, we find that they all lack purpose in life. They lack direction in life. But they have an innate fear of avoiding the realities of being an adult. Now, I would like to make it more clear by citing DJ, that is Amir Khan, as he tells once that he has graduated from university 5 years ago, but still continue to hang around the campus as he is too scared to face the real world. But the talk of purpose, it returns in their lives as tragedy strikes and their friend is killed. So investigation is closed by the government as they blame the pilot's carelessness for the crash. So this gives a purpose to these characters. They found that now we have a purpose in life. Now again I would like to discuss another movie, Dil Chahta Hai. It is the story of coming of age of three friends through the various experiences that they go through in their lives. This movie is vibrant and it is connected with the youth. Now the film also shows Dil Chahta Hai. This movie again shows that no matter whether you are a 95% guy or you get 65% or 35% marks, you have to deal with the expectations, pressures, and trauma in your lives. We all can revisit our school and college days and can recall our frustration. We all are more than our marks and scores. So there is more to us. Now I'll discuss another movie, Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara. There is a goal set for all the three leading men of the movie. Each character took up one challenging adventure sport where successful completion signaled or indicated the journey from boyhood to adulthood. Let me take another movie, Lakshya. Being aimless in life and careless about career is a phase everyone goes through. Now, the main character in the movie is an aimless young man from Delhi who has no goals in life, who has no direction in life. His life revolves around hanging out with his friends at college. One day, influenced by his friend, he decides to join army and then he surprises everybody with his capabilities and achieves something which he himself never expected to do. So, this movie teaches us to live one life and live the other. So, learners, I think I have discussed most of the concepts which are related to this session. We have discussed, first of all, what is self. Self, for understanding self, not only we need to understand ourselves, we need to see, how others perceive us, how others see us. Then, discovering your true self is very, very important. And this discovery becomes very difficult because there are certain expectations.
When you end, put control key.
So there are certain expectations, and there are certain socially accepted or socially approved behaviors. And because of these, restrictions imposed by the elders, by the society, we are not able to discover who we are. We are not able to discover our true self. Then I have discussed with you the four statuses as given by the Marcia. So we find that we start with the identity foreclosure, then identity diffusion, psychosocial moratorium, and followed by the achievement of the identity. And I hope you must have understood. Now I am coming to the activity which you all have to do from this particular topic, activity on understanding self. Now, the objectives for this activity are you reflect on your life experiences, you identify various sources of influence on your life, recognize the nature of influences and their impact on identity formation, foster identity formation through developing a sense of acceptance towards oneself within these social influences. So these are the objectives of the activity. Now, what you all are expected to do, you have to complete the worksheet. So what is the worksheet all about? In the worksheet, on one side you have the sources of influence. That means the people, events or the experiences. So you have to write that which is your source of influence, which person, which event and which experience, and On the other side, you have to write the aspects of identity that can be attributed to this source. So if you write the name of the person, then you have to write that this person has affected which aspect of your identity over a period of time. So like this, you will be writing the persons, you will be writing the events, you will be writing the experiences along with the effect on a particular aspect of your identity. This is your worksheet. You have to complete your worksheet, and along with the worksheet, there is a reflective fast write where you are expected to write. There you have to write the reflections about what you have learned about yourself through this activity. So the reflective fast writes will be submitted to the workshop facilitator at the end of the workshop. So you have to submit the worksheet along with the reflective fast write, that what all you have learned about yourself through this activity. So learners, I hope you all have understood the content which was covered in this session along with the activity. In case you have any question, you are most welcome to ask. I can take up your questions. If you have questions, you can write them. Yes, do you have any questions? Would you like to ask any question from this activity or the content which I have taken up in this session? Hope you have understood. Okay, if there are no questions because you are only writing details about yourself or you are thanking me, I am not finding any questions. Then I would like to conclude this session, and we will be meeting again at 11:45 for the next session on drama for environmental issues. How the drama can help in identifying different issues, awareness about different issues, and finally resolving them. कटौती कर दिया मैंने।